Now let's go ahead and see what unions are and see exactly what they do. Imagine this scenario. Suppose that you have been working at your job for quite a few years and you are a decently productive employee. Over the past few years, however, you've asked your boss for a raise, but your boss has given you quite a few excuses, saying that now's not the right time to give the employees a raise, or it's not in the budget for this year for the firm or company. And you reluctantly walk away every time you ask your boss for this raise. However, one day you notice that your coworkers who do the same exact job that you do and also have the same exact job title have been earning more than you over the past few years, even though you've been there longer and you are a better employee than they are. So you get fed up with this and you go straight to your boss and you say to him or her, you give them an ultimatum. You say, if you don't give me a raise right now that is commensurate with my experience and with my job title, I am going to go stop working. What do you think is the most likely outcome of this scenario or these circumstances? The most likely outcome is you're probably going to get fired. And that is basically why unions are going to exist. Because you yourself don't have a lot of say about business operations or business production decisions. You yourself are very, very weak. So when you go to your boss and give them an ultimatum, they're just going to laugh in your face and say, we can easily replace you with somebody else. However, if groups of employees come together and they form a union, it's going to be much more difficult for firms and corporations to fire everybody and replace them all at once. So unions are very powerful. So man alone, very weak, but man together, very, very strong. Just like in the Planet of the Apes. So essentially, as we can see with this, unions are associations of employees that bargain with employers over the terms and conditions of work. So there's a lot of collective bargaining that happens. They can be for higher wages, it can be for better work conditions, better benefits, but unions are basically saying that groups of employees are very strong with one another, and if the firms and corporations don't give in to their demands, they can go ahead and stop working or strike, which would be a huge cost on business firms' operations and their manufacturing processes. One of the best examples of unions that I see nowadays actually comes from an episode of The Simpsons. It's one of the best episodes of The Simpsons that I can basically think of, and I'll give you a little bit of setup for this before I'll go ahead and show you the video. So Montgomery Burns, who is the owner of the nuclear power plant, is looking over the labor contract for the union and basically feels that he is paying too much for a dental plan. He basically says to all the employees that if they give up their dental plan, he will throw a party for all the employees, give them a keg of beer. All the adults in the nuclear power plant, they're all stupid, they're all idiots because this is The Simpsons. They all agree to this. However, Homer, who is an employee at the nuclear power plant, as he's waiting in line for beer, he realizes that if he doesn't have a dental plan, he can't afford braces for his daughter, Lisa. So his daughter, Lisa, she needs braces. And if he doesn't have that dental plan, he's not going to be able to afford any of it. So he tells all of his fellow employees, his co-workers, that this is not a great deal, and Homer is elected as head of the union, and they all agreed to strike and shut down the nuclear power plant. And what happens after this is exactly what we see here in this video.
So we'll march day and night by the big cooling tower. They have the plant, but we have the power.
I'll do classical gas.
Ooh, look at him strutting around like he's cock of the walk. Well, let me tell you, Homer Simpson is cock of nothing. Why, you and I can run this plant ourselves.
the big cooling tower. They have the plans, but we have the power.
So we'll march day and night
By the big cooling tower. They have the plans, but we have the power.
Look at them all through the darkness I'm bringing. They're not sad at all. They're actually singing. They sing without juicers. They sing without blenders. They sing without flungers, cap dabblers, and smandlers. Do tell Simpson I'm ready to deal. All right, Homer. You can have the dental plan on one condition. You must resign as head of the union. Smithers, I'm beginning to think that Homer Simpson was not the brilliant tactician I thought he was.
So, as usual, Homer is an idiot here. Back when The Simpsons was really, really good, right? So nowadays, Simpsons not so great. But this exactly shows us the power of unions where groups of people have a lot of say in how business operations are going to come down to play. So there are a few different types of unions we can focus in on. There's the Kraft Union and there's an industrial union. The Kraft Union is a little bit more specific. It represents members of a specific craft or occupation. So if you do this particular job or this specific job, you can go ahead and be part of a Kraft Union. An example of this are air traffic controllers, which are going to be under the union known as PATCO. There's the Teamsters, the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, and there's also a Kraft Union here on campus known as the UFF, or the United Faculty Federation of Florida, which basically is a union, a craft union for all the faculty members within the state university system in Florida. And I'm a part of that particular union, and they give me a free lunch every single year. And the lunch is pretty much like a TV dinner, but I'll take free food wherever I can get it. The industrial union represents all workers employed in a specific union, and so this is going to be a little bit more general. So it doesn't just say that you have to be a teacher or you have to be an air traffic controller in order to be within this union. It employs all workers within a specific industry. One of the most well-known ones is the UAW, the United Auto Workers, which is basically the union for all auto workers. You can be a mechanic, you can be a janitor, you can be an administrative assistant. Doesn't matter, because you work in the industry, you can be under the UAW Industrial Union. Other examples include the AFS-CME, so the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and that basically gives us a few examples of both the craft and industrial union. And you may be wondering to yourself what exactly are the benefits and costs of joining a particular union? So we can list them a few right here. So number one benefit of joining a union is that you typically do have higher wages and better job benefits through collective bargaining. So the union will actually fight for its employees. They'll go ahead and say to the employers, hey, give our employees a wage increase every single year that is sort of matching the rate of inflation, or give us better benefits for retirement or better health benefits, give us some type of childcare. The union will always fight for ways to help improve the employees' sort of lives. There's also greater job security against arbitrary or vindictive decisions by management. So management can basically go to an employee and say, hey, I'm going to fire you. The union will fight for that employee if you are part of the union, and basically say you can't fire anybody that doesn't have just cause. There are a few costs to joining a union though. Number one has to be these membership dues. So in order to join any union, you do have to pay membership dues. It's typically a certain percentage of your salary, maybe 1 or 2%, depending on how much you make. There are other costs, such as striking. If the union decides to strike, that means you are not working, and if you're not working, you do lose out on a few of your wages as well. And that can be a very, very harmful thing for a lot of people, especially if you do live paycheck to paycheck. And another cost is some loss of individual flexibility. So what happens if you join the union and the union decides to strike, but you don't necessarily agree with that decision? Well, that means you can't necessarily go against what the union says, because you have agreed to be a part with them, so you have to adhere to some of the decisions that the union is going to follow. So here you do lose a little bit of your flexibility, your individual flexibility, and have to go ahead and do whatever the union does say. So that just gives you a broad general sense of what unions do and why unions are so important, because they do help benefit the employees, help to make sure that we have safe working conditions and that we are getting some type of raises or some type of benefits every single year. In the next section, we'll go ahead and break down a few of the different types of union structures and see exactly why a wage gap might appear between those that join a union and those that don't join a union. And that is essentially where we get to that third hypothesis, that insider-outsider theory.